This is not the video I planned on doing tonight. This is not a video we ever plan on doing. If you don't know, Thursday night, a man was shot by the police. And this guy wasn't involved in any crime. This guy wasn't suspected of any crime. This guy answered the door. I'm sure you guys, at least some of you, have heard about this. And every time the state kills a citizen, we have to stop and ask, when do we evaluate the state's right to execute its citizens? When do we evaluate it? When do we ask when it's too much? When do we ask, how justified are these shootings? When do we ask what the cost is? Now, don't get me wrong, right? Let's be pragmatic for a second. There are justifiable shootings. The majority are probably justifiable. Probably. But we don't know. We don't know if they're justifiable. In fact, how many people are shot by the police each year? I'm waiting. I know you don't know, because no one actually knows. And in fact, until 2016, if you can believe it, no one was even keeping track, not in any appreciable way. And since 2016, the measures that were supposed to be put in place at the federal level to track what should be the easiest trackable crime statistic in our entire country, because it involves the very people who report and record everything. It should be the easiest statistic to find. How many people are shot by the police each year? But no one actually knows, and that is terrifying. Now, there are estimates, and if you look at the estimates leading up to about 2016, you get somewhere between 300 and 500 a year, which is too many. But those estimates are wrong, and the evidence indicates that they're wrong short, and maybe by as much as half. Maybe it's double what the statistics say, what the poorly reported statistics say. Okay, they're not even statistics. They're not effective measurements of what's going on. They're not useful. Starting in 2016, some new methods have been applied to tracking these things. And what they got when they applied these to the 2015 number, which captured, I think the first estimate in 2015 was like 560 or something. And then they applied this new method, which basically, if I understand correctly, tracked news stories rather than relying on the police's own reporting, because the police's own reporting has been insufficient. They're good at reporting your crimes. They're not good at reporting their own. But when they applied this new technique to 2015, they got 1,066, I think was the number. So almost double. And they believe that that didn't even encompass all of them, right? I think their final estimate was something like 1,160. So about double what's being reported. Or we can take the opposite approach, and we can say that the statistics prior are actually accurate, and just police shootings have doubled over the past year. pick your poison. Either they were already too terrible, or they were terrible and are now more terrible. Look, every U.S. citizen, actually everyone under the jurisdiction of the United States, is guaranteed due process. Now, what process is due is a question of fact. When someone's got a gun to the head of another person, the process that they're due might be a bullet to their own head from a trained sniper, right? That might be the process that's due. We have no idea. It's really fact dependent, right? Do we know, is there a clean shot? Is there any risk of another person being hit by mistake? Is the person cooperating? Do we know that there's a problem with the gun? Is it unloaded? I mean, who knows? Who knows? And we defer to police, right? Because they're trained and they are better. Remember this. Police are better at dealing with these situations than a normal person. So we're told. Ostensibly, their training and field experience makes them better equipped to handle these situations. So we're told. But are they? And I don't know. And this Wichita case, let's look at it. So let's look at it. And there's some important stuff happening here. So, believe it or not, this is the result of Call of Duty. In a way, right? If everybody played Battlefield, I guess it'd be better. But some guys are having a dispute on Call of Duty, and one of them decides that he's going to SWAT the other person. If you don't know, because maybe you don't play video games, or you don't read the news or whatever, swatting is this idea where you call and make a false police report against someone, usually alleging that they're in the midst of a very dangerous situation, like a hostage situation that involves a weapon. And then a SWAT team, or not necessarily a SWAT team specifically, but we'll say a significant police response goes to the scene that's reported, and they handle it the way they would handle the situation. In some cases, that means large guns and busting through doors and coming in full force to rescue the presumed hostage, or to terminate the situation, if you will. And I have a friend that this actually happened to. So that's great. It's a real mess. And it's something that it's a real problem for law enforcement, right? Because it's a waste of significant resources, puts a lot of people at risk. It's not a good thing, and it's a significant crime. And the guy in question actually was arrested earlier tonight. Well, it's 3 in the morning here, so he was arrested earlier than now. He's apparently from Los Angeles, and LAPD have made an arrest of who they believe is the guy who did the swatting call. But what's important here is the guy who did the swatting call may be a pile of garbage, right? He may be trash. I mean, doing this over a video game, doing this at all is just, it's disgusting. It puts so many people at risk, and it's not funny or cool or anything like that. So he may be a terrible human, but he didn't pull the trigger, right? He did not shoot an unarmed man who answered a door, okay? That's important to know. And what's disgusting as the garbage heap who called in the SWAT call is the chief of police in Wichita coming out and laying the blame at his feet. Well, if this guy hadn't done it, well, right, if this guy hadn't swatted, you guys wouldn't have shown up with guns. and shot a citizen, but he didn't pull the trigger. Your guy did. And we don't have a video that I know of yet. Goodness gracious. We don't have a video that I'm aware of yet. I'm suspecting we won't see a video on this for a long time. If this case stays fresh in the news, a video's far off, right? Maybe I'm wrong. If I am, please link it in the comments. Please link it. I will go through it and we'll talk about it. But let's talk about what happened. So they get the SWAT call. Police show up and get in position. Actually, I'm going to read this story from the NBC News about the arrest, but it summarizes the incident here. So Barris is the guy who's arrested who made the false call. So Barris allegedly made the false report after getting into some kind of dispute with another person in connection with online gaming. And Barris allegedly gave authorities the address that he believed that person lived at. Multiple law enforcement sources told NBC News. But instead the address was for Finch's home. Finch is the person who was shot, who was not involved in the dispute, the sources said. The caller claimed his father had been shot in the head and that he was holding his mother and sibling at gunpoint, according to police audio played at a press conference in Wichita Friday. Okay, mind you, this is a person calling from Los Angeles to Wichita saying that their father has been shot in the head and that someone is holding his mother and sibling at gunpoint, okay? Now, there are ways to kind of spoof your phone number and to fool identification systems. And maybe police need to work on those systems for these types of incidents. But if you've got a call coming from LA, right, presumably we should be able to identify that. But, you know, I don't know. On the tech side of things, maybe there's software that's very, very effective at masking that. So anyway, officers surrounded the home bracing for a hostage situation. When the man identified as Finch went to the door, police told him to put his hands up, and an officer fired at the man after the man moved his hand towards the area of his waistband. What does that sound like, right? Shaver. Shaver was shot after moving his hand to the area of his waistband. Anytime someone is shot, they're always moving their hand towards the area of their waistband because everybody is out to murder cops all the time. Now, I'm not downplaying the danger of police jobs. I'm not downplaying the danger of someone armed pulling a gun on a cop. But in hostage situations, do they answer the door? Is that a common response? I don't know. I'm not SWAT, right? But my non-SWAT brain tells me that in a hostage situation, the shooter doesn't answer the door. Maybe they do. Maybe they do all the time. Finch was unarmed, he said. Due to the actions of a prankster, we have an innocent victim, Livingston said. That's the chief of police, Troy Livingston. No. Due to the actions of your officer, who pulled a trigger on an unarmed man whose, quote, hand moved towards his waistband, if it actually did, you have an innocent victim. Until then, you had a false police report that you apparently didn't vet out. You rang a doorbell or knocked on a door and a guy answered. A guy answered the door. Is he engaged? Like, even if there is a hostage situation, the guy answering the door, is he engaged in a hostage situation at that moment if he doesn't have a hostage? The officer who fired the single shot, a 7-year veteran of the department, is on paid leave pending an investigation. A 7-year veteran. This is a highly trained officer, we're told, with 7 years of experience. And he shoots a guy who answers a door. Now you may say, well, he shouldn't have put his hands to his waistband. What do? You're at home watching TV, making ramen. I don't know what you're doing. Doesn't matter. You're not holding someone hostage. You go to your door and a cop says, put your hands up. Why are you putting your hands up? I mean, hopefully your hands go up, right? Like, hopefully that's the response that occurs. Say your hands shoot up and you don't get killed by the cops. Hopefully. But what if you've had a couple drinks? What if anything happens? What if you just don't get what's going on? What if you're woke up from a nap? Right? What if anything happens? What if you get an itch? You just reach down and scratch it, not even thinking, because you aren't holding someone hostage. You're just a guy. You're just a guy. And you get executed by the state, and their first response is to lay the blame at the feet of everybody except the one guy who pulled the trigger. The one guy who pulled the trigger is the one guy they don't want to blame. And he's not the only one to blame. He's not. He's probably the main guy to blame. He's the guy who pulled the trigger. But everything about the situation, we have to evaluate what police response looks like. What their analysis is going in the field. You've got a guy answering the door. Is he a hostage taker at that point? Maybe he's a hostage. Like, taking this beneficial to the police, and that maybe this looks still like a hostage situation. Maybe the guy answering the door was told to go answer the door by the guy with the gun. Because if I'm a guy with a gun holding people hostage, I'm not answering a door ever. Why would I? What plan would that be? And again, I don't know. Does this happen? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Every time the state kills a citizen, we have to ask, how long do we let the state kill citizens? It's not just criminals. It's not just thugs. It's not just pick your poison. We don't need to have a race debate. We need to have a violence debate. Every race is getting shot by police. Some are right, some are wrong. Every single one ends the process rights of a citizen. And sometimes, that's all the process they deserve. Sometimes. But we are way too liberal with applying that definition of process to people. We are way too liberal in defining how an officer's perception of a threat is justified. We're way too liberal in doing that. The most conservative police supporting people you know are too liberal on how they apply the definition of due process. Because this guy didn't get any process. He's not even a suspect of a crime. But as this story unfolds, watch for equivocation, watch for blame shifting, watch for everything other than an examination of why police are allowed to kill citizens. Sorry I don't have a different video. Sorry I don't have a more uplifting video. I like doing funny stuff. But we've got to tackle this as a country. And we've got to stop buying in to the idea that the state is in the right when it takes a citizen's life. Right? We have to stop that. I mean, we have, like, think of the irony here. How conservative are you? And if you're extremely conservative and you don't trust the government to do anything competently, but you forgive the police first and then ask questions. You forgive them before you even consider the possibility that the state taking the life of a citizen is wrong. How conservative are you? How anti-government are you? Not even anti, how skeptical of government power and competence are you when you're willing to bootlick for the state and apologize for every single shooting first? Wrong. When the state takes the life of a citizen, we need to ask why the state had the authority to do it first. Not apologize first. We should not vilify police. Okay? It's a different thing. We shouldn't vilify police, but we should quickly become skeptical of state authority and ask, why, in this case, did the state have the authority to end the life of a citizen? Because the state works for the citizen, not the other way around. Yes, even the criminals. The state's job is to protect everybody. So the only time that the state is justified in taking the life of a citizen is when another citizen's life trumps it, right? When they are threatening the life of another person. Then the state has a duty to protect the victim. But if there is no victim, have to ask why. Same with Shaver. Why are you shooting Shaver in a hallway? Why is the stop happening? Or why is the arrest happening in the way it is? Is it justified? I mean, Shaver was shot over reports of a gun. Turned out to be a pellet gun, right? In a hotel. Didn't fire it. We don't even know if that report's accurate, by the way. Let's be real with that. Not 100% sure. Maybe it is. Prove me wrong. That's good. Put it in the comments. That's cool. I'm fine with that. Happy to be wrong. Finch is just a guy, not involved in anything, no threat to anybody, unarmed. His hand allegedly moved towards a waistband. Produce the video. See what it looks like. See what it looks like. Anyway, I could be pissed about this for a long time, but I'm gonna cut the video off here. Thanks for watching. We'll have a funny, happier video coming out really soon. In the meanwhile, stop taking shit from the state. Right? The state works for us. Every single time the state takes the life of a citizen, we have to ask, why is it still justified for you to do this? Why is it still justified for the state to kill me? Because Finch could be you. Finch isn't a thug on the street committing an illegal act. I know we're all angels. None of us do anything illegal. Finch isn't a guy entangled with police. He's not a guy resisting arrest. He's not a drunk driver. He's not a guy who happened to smoke weed one time, and then was a concealed carry holder. He's not a guy that's on the ground tackled by two cops who reaches for his waistband. He's not a guy waving a gun around in a hotel, getting drunk with some friends. Finch is just a guy at home minding his own business, and the state came and killed him. And now they're scrambling to blame everybody else. When does it stop?